Welcome to the Alternative Guide to Postgraduate Funding Online. This is the introductory video where we will introduce the world of postgraduate funding through charities and trusts and explain how to use this website.
So, charities and trusts. There are tens of thousands of charities and trusts that are active in the UK today, set up and financially sustained by private individuals for a wealth of philanthropic reasons. Now, although relatively few postgraduate students think to apply to charity, many of them will consider sponsoring PhD, Masters or PGCE study. Sometimes the eligibility criteria is a bit diverse and a bit bizarre. The vegetarian charity, for example, only grants funding to vegetarian or vegan students. The Leave a Home Trades Charities Trust only grants funding to students whose parents are grocers, pharmacists or commercial travellers. And the Christchurch Southwark Educational Foundation only grants funding to students who live in selected postcodes in South East London. However, there are also a lot of other charities with more open eligibility criteria, so there's pretty much something for everyone, given how many charities there are. So why haven't more students heard about postgraduate funding through charity? Well, I think it's because very few people actually ever have. Charities can be pretty obscure, not listed on the internet, and I think that the emphasis of universities has been on big public sources of funding such as research councils rather than the more unusual and sometimes old-fashioned world of charities and trusts. I'm Dr. Luke Blaxall. I completed my PhD in history last year. I was rejected over 10 times from various academic scholarships, but ended up financing my whole PhD through charities and trusts, winning more than 45 separate awards.
I'm Dr. Shuzi Zhu. I completed my PhD in neuroscience. I was fully funded for 3 years, but I funded my 4th year and conference expenses through charities.
So what is the Alternative Guide to Postgraduate Funding all about? Well, it's designed to be a comprehensive resource on the world of postgraduate funding from the voluntary sector, taking students through each stage of the alternative application process, from initially identifying charities and trusts, to finding them, to applying strongly and in the correct manner. The Alternative Guide was previously a book in its last 4 editions, but now it's available for the first time as a website, the Alternative Guide Online.
We'll now take you on a guided tour on how to use the Alternative Guide Online, section by section.
Welcome to the Alternative Guide to Postgraduate Funding Online. In this 5-minute video, we'll just give you a brief idea of how to use the website and highlight its main features. So the first thing to get used to are these 8 master buttons. These take you through the alternative application process in an intuitive order. So to start with, we have the introduction section where we are now. Introduces charities and trusts and how they're different from public sources of funding. A good place to start. We then move on to finding funding. Obviously, because there are so many thousands of charities, finding the charities is a very important thing to be able to do. And this looks at general strategies you can use. Looking online, looking in the library, asking for advice, etc. And they have their own little sub-pages as well. Then our funding database. This is probably the most useful tool on the website. 600 charities sourced by our team, with more being added each month. You can search by various criteria: age, nationality, subject area, whether you're full-time or part-time, and also the very useful free text search option as well, so students can really pinpoint the charities that will fund them. Next section is about requesting forms. Now, this is a crucial intermediary step where you write to a charity with an email or a letter to make sure you're eligible and to request application forms. And there are a variety of sample letters here to get you on your way with that. The next section is about making your application. Obviously a critical stage. Talks you through the 4 main parts of the application process: the actual application form itself, the personal statement, the financial statement, and references. The next 2 sections, personal statement and financial statement, are about 2 of those four parts, the two most important parts. First one is personal statement. Now this section is quite involved because the personal statement is the most important part of the application. Some static advice here in the text, and then also model personal statements and key do's and don'ts of these three students. And you can click in and you can read a variety of model statements. Also advanced application techniques for particular student groups, for example PhD students, or master's students, international students, etc. Finally, the personal statements assistant. Now this is one of the first of the utilities that this website has. So this personal statement assistant gives you paragraph by paragraph guidance where you can input these paragraphs and it will give you prompts to make sure you have included the right things. And you can click on saved statement. Another useful option for a student. The next place is the financial statement assistant. You can also navigate with this drop-down menu here as well as the buttons. So financial statement as well as some advice. It also has another utility, financial statement assistant. There are two versions of this for students who are applying for fees and maintenance grants and for students who are applying for research, travel and conference expenses. This gives you some guidance on how to be able to present your financial statement and also how much is sensible to put in each box. Both the personal and financial statement assistants can also be downloaded and printed off as well. Finally, we've got the frequently asked questions section, which is obviously pretty intuitive. Probably some other things you need to know about the website are firstly that there are videos in each of the 8 main master sections. Now these videos are of our workshop team presenting each of the main areas in a lively, punchy and engaging manner in perhaps 5 to 10 minutes. So on the frequently asked questions section that we are here, we have a video, you can just press click and it plays. You can also make it larger as well if you want to. So that's very useful. Another very useful part of the website are the read more about it sections. So I'm just going to go back here to finding funding, say, and the read more about it sections appear at the bottom of each of the main areas. Now what the read more about it sections are basically PDFs. They allow you to download the entirety of each section as a PDF. So in this case, this one's finding funding. Now these PDFs have probably got more detail on than the website and are very useful for advanced users or users who simply want to be able to download or print the information in a website, on the website. You can also, in addition to the read more about it, you can also go to the PDF download point. Now what this enables you to do, this is a very powerful feature indeed, it just enables you to download the entire website as an 132 page PDF. And essentially allows you to download here the book form of the alternative guide to postgraduate funding. And again, this gives students the option of being able to read all of the information here as a book in addition to the interactive website. So students can choose. The final important thing to have a look at here on the website is Personal Grants Manager, which you can access through this tab here in the top right hand corner. You can also access Personal Statement Assistant, which we just saw from there as well. So Personal Grants Manager is a bit like a virtual filing cabinet, and it allows you to be able to keep track of all of your ongoing grant applications. So we click here, for example, add a grant. This obviously only works if you know or you have at least noted a particular charity to apply for. So let's say you want to apply for the or write down the St Clement Danes Foundation. You can enter that in the box there. Now you can put down the deadline. You probably won't know the deadline yet because you will have to ask the charity what that is. So let's leave that box blank for now. You define a priority level, whether it's low, medium or high. Let's choose high. Approximate amount you think you might get. Again, let's put in £1,000 perhaps. And then the application stage. Now, the purpose of this is that you can move these toggles through the application process as you go through it. So at the moment, let's say we've just noted it as a potential fund, and we're not sure whether it's actually going to grant us money or not, but we're at least interested enough in it to write it down. So we've got here the St Clement Dane Foundation that's come up. A couple of these have been added earlier as well, the Christchurch Southwark Trust and the Stapley Trust. Now, the reason this is really useful is because students can go back to these and edit them as more information becomes available. So for example, when you find out the deadline for the St Clement Dane Educational Trust, you can put it down in here. You might want to change the amount, and of course you can choose which application stage it's at. So maybe you've sent an initial letter or email of inquiry off to the St Clement Dane Educational Foundation. Whereas here with Christchurch Southwark, you might, for example, have submitted your application from you having already received your form. And then maybe at the Stapley Trust, maybe your application has been successful, and so you can update that as well. So then you can press update. So Personal Grants Manager is really just an organisational tool. You could do all this in a pad of paper, of course you could, but it's useful to have this utility within the same environment as the rest of the tools.